And we're back. Let's go through these rosters division by division. Starting in the Sun Belt Division, which is the National League East, we'll look at the Houston Astros. All teams, I should mention, have a 5-man rotation and a 12-man pitching staff. Not all teams will have a mop-up role. Some will, some won't. All teams will have a closer and some combination of sit-up and long relievers. Houston's 5-man rotation, the ace of the staff is Mike Scott, who pitched for the Astros in '86. He'll be followed in order in the rotation by J.R. Richard from 1979, Larry Dierker, 1969, Darryl Kyle, 1997, probably his best or second best year in the big leagues before he died tragically way too young in 2002. And the 5th Houston rotation spot goes to Pete Harnisch. He pitched for the Astros in the early 90s, and we're taking his season from 1993. Houston's bullpen will have Jeff Heathcock as the mop-up pitcher from his 1985 season. The 2 long relievers, Octavio Dotel from 2002 and Dave Smith from 1981. The 3 setup pitchers in the Houston pen, Brad Lidge from 2004, Joe Sambito from 1980, and Bill Dolly from 1983. Billy Wagner, the closer, his best season as an Astro, 1999. He had some really good ones. 99 just happened to be his best in terms of the sabermetric profile. The Houston batting order, Cesar Cedeno from the 1972 club leads off in center field. Craig Biggio, 1997, batting second at second. Jeff Bagwell from 94, hitting third at first base. Lance Berkman from 2001 bats cleanup, plays left field. Richard Hidalgo from 2000 plays right field, hits fifth. Morgan Ensberg of 2005 will bat sixth at third base. Glenn Davis from 1989, the first baseman that was there prior to Jeff Bagwell, he bats seventh. He'll be the designated hitter for the Astros. Joe Ferguson, the 8th place hitter from 1977, will be the catcher. And Dickie Thon, 1983, shortstop, batting number 9. Houston's bench will have 2 outfielders. From 1983, Jerry Mumphrey, who was a part-time Astro. He was acquired August 10th, 83, from the Yankees in a deal, and he played the rest of the 83 season with Houston. Good batting average, good base runner. He'll be the primary outfielder off the bench. And then Tony Walker was on the 86 Astros club primarily as a pinch runner and a pinch hitter, late game situations. Not exactly a great pinch hitter. Good runner, though. And he's also on the club. They're joined by Ricky Gutierrez, who is a versatile infielder, played on the Astros for several years. His 1995 campaign is what we have on the roster here. And finally, Paul Bacco from 1999, the catcher, and he will be the backup to Ferguson for the Houston club. Houston's one of the better pitching teams in the league, near the top in WHIP. Their team WHIP is 102. Their batting their hardest team to hit in terms of batting average against at 202, and they're in the middle of the pack in terms of their overall ERA from the seasons that we drafted on this roster at in the 240s, and so they will definitely be one of the more competitive teams in this division. The other team that will be really competitive in this division will be the Braves, and they have a very formidable pitching rotation as well. Greg Maddux from the 95 Braves is the ace of the staff. I think that goes without saying. Some older school pitchers in the rotation for this franchise. Tom L. Hughes from the 1915 Boston Braves is in the 2 spot, followed by Warren Spahn. He pitched in 53 when the Braves were in Milwaukee. He's followed by Art Neff, who was a 1917 Boston Braves pitcher, and Tom Glavine, who pitched on the Braves in 19 91. Salary considerations had to be given because of the cost of some of the better players for the Atlanta ball club. And I should note, as you probably are picking up on, anybody that played in the history of the franchise was eligible in the modern era, so 1901 and beyond. So any Braves that played for the Braves franchise in Milwaukee or Boston, they're eligible. Obviously, any Washington Senator from 1901 to 1960 could be on the Twins, and any Senator from 61 to 71 would be eligible to be a Ranger. You get the idea. The Atlanta bullpen, the mop-up pitcher Steve Bedrosian, had really good stats. He's just a very low innings guy, so he's in a mop-up role. He was on the Braves in 93. The two long relievers for the Braves, Rick Camp was the pitcher that hit the home run deep in extra innings to continue a game against the Mets in the middle of the night in 1985. He's one of the long relief pitchers. He's joined by Chris Medlin from the 2012 ball club. The Atlanta short relievers on the back end of the bullpen, Gene Garber, who was with the Braves during their early 80s success. He was a closer for them for a while. He joined the Braves in 78, a June 15th trade from the Phillies. And through the mid-80s, the non-waiver trade deadline was in mid-June. It was not July 31st like we know now. That didn't start happening that way until 1986. So Garber was traded at the deadline in 78 from Philly to Atlanta. And he'll be one of the setup pitchers for the Braves. He's joined by Rafael Soriano, who was on the Braves in 2007. Jake Northrup will also be in the bullpen as a setup pitcher. He was a Boston Braves starter for a few games back in 1918. Didn't throw a ton of innings, but he put up amazing numbers for the dead ball era. And so he's a setup pitcher. And the closer, Craig Kimbrell from the 2013 Atlanta franchise. The back of that bullpen is one of the best in the entire league. I would say the top of the rotation, I would tend to give the rotation advantage overall to Houston between these two, but the back of the bullpen, Houston's got a good back of the bullpen, but this Atlanta one with this Braves team, I think it's even better. The Atlanta lineup, the leadoff hitter is Bill Sweeney. He's the second baseman from the 1912 Boston Braves. He's followed by another Boston Brave, Tommy Holmes, left field from 1945. Eddie Matthews, the three-hitter at third base from the 53 Milwaukee Braves. And then Hank Aaron batting cleanup in right field from the 62 Milwaukee Braves. Chipper Jones from the Atlanta days is batting fifth at the DH position. And his 1999 season was his best offensively in terms of his overall statistical profile. And so that's where he fits in. Dale Murphy from the 83 Braves is in center field. He'll hit sixth. Felipe Alou from the 66 Braves at first base will bat seventh, their first year in Atlanta. Joe Torre from the 64 Braves, when they were still in Milwaukee, the catcher, will hit eighth. And batting ninth at shortstop will be Johnny Logan. He was a shortstop on the Milwaukee Braves teams in the 50s. 1955, the season that's being represented here. On the Atlanta bench, two reserve outfielders, a speedy guy with a decent batting average from the 2008 Braves, Josh Anderson, and another player with a really good batting average from the 1925 Boston Braves, Les Mann, both on the bench. Martin Prado from the 08 Braves, a very versatile player, can play pretty much anywhere on the infield or the outfield. He is also on the bench, and joined by David Ross, the catcher, and he'll be Torrey's backup, Ross from the 2010 Atlanta Braves. And I would say, while I'll save my predictions for the division to the end, the Astro and Brave clubs are, I would say, pretty safely the best two overall in terms of their pitching and offensive profile. When you look at their overall stats from the various players' seasons that were drafted onto those rosters in terms of the sabermetric type stats with the batting average against and the whip and the ERA for the pitching staff, on base, slugging percentage, those kind of things for the hitters. On base, I look at more than batting average, and so, for instance, the Braves team batting average 321, the Astros only 302. In fact, the Astros one of the worst team batting averages. But in terms of on base, they're fairly close. The Astros were at 388, the Braves at 391. No team in this division has a team on base when you look at the players drafted over 400. Now, obviously, the hitters are so good and the pitchers are so good that the stats will equal out somewhere in the middle overall, and a lot of hitters will not do as well as their stats in real life were from the season, and the same thing for the pitchers. But I think without a doubt, in terms of the total package, those are the best two teams. Next, we'll take a look at the Miami Marlins, and we'll start with their pitching staff. On that Marlins staff, the ace of the staff is Kevin Brown, who was there for a couple of years in the mid-90s from 1996. And in the following order, number 2 through 5, he'll be followed by Jose Fernandez, the rookie sensation from this past 2013 season. Josh Johnson from 2009, Dontrell Willis from 2005, and Ricky Nolasco from 2008. No mop-up pitchers on the Marlins staff. The Marlin bullpen, 3 long relievers, Josh Beckett from 2005, A.J. Burnett from 2002, and Al Leiter from 1996. 3 setup pitchers, so that would be Armando Benitez from 2004, Todd Jones from 2005, and Matt Mante from 1998. The closer is Brian Harvey from the expansion season of 1993. That was his last really dominant year as a closer in the big leagues. The Marlin lineup, Luis Castillo from 2000 is the leadoff batter at second base. Good on base guy, good stolen base total. So he'll be the spark plug at the top of the lineup. He's followed by Miguel Cabrera from 2006 at third base. I put Cabrera on the Marlins and not Detroit because the Marlins would have been hurt worse without him than the Tigers would have been. The Tigers simply had a lot of other offensive options because they've been around for a lot longer. Cabrera batting second at third base. 3-hitter, 1996 Gary Sheffield, left field. The 4-hitter, Giancarlo Stanton from the 2012 Marlins in right. The 5-hitter, Hanley Ramirez, shortstop from 2008. The rest of the Marlin lineup, Cliff Floyd from 2001 in center field, batting 6th. We don't have a true center fielder on their team. His outfield profile is the best in terms of his defensive rating, so he's in center field, batting 6th. The 7-hitter, Mike Lowell from the 2003 championship team. He'll be the designated hitter. The 8-hitter from the 94 Marlins, Jeff Conine, first base in the 8th spot. And Charles Johnson from the 97 Marlins is the catcher, and he will bat in the 9 hole. Marlins have a good bench. 2 outfielders, both who hit well. One's a speed guy, Christian Yelich, the youngster who played some for the Marlins in this past 2013 season. The other a slugger, Cody Ross, 2007. He had 12 home runs and a .653 slugging percentage in just under 200 at-bats. That's a good year. The infield reserve for the Marlins is Dave Berg from the 1998 team when they tore down the championship winner. He actually put up a good year, hit over 300, had a 390-plus on base, and could play many positions all over the infield. And the backup catcher, another good hitter, Mike Redmond, who was on the Marlins for a while, his 2002 season, is a representative of this Miami club. In terms of the team on base, the Marlins actually, along with the Braves, are the best in this division. Where the Marlins, I think, are going to be a little bit behind the Braves and the Astros as they're pitching, particularly the back end of their rotation. The bullpen is comparable to a point, but the pitching isn't quite as good as what the Braves and the Astros have. On to our look at the Texas Rangers, and their rotation will feature two guys that get a ton of strikeouts in the 1 and 2 spots. HOU Darvish, 2013, will be in the number 1 position, followed by Nolan Ryan from 1990. 1990, actually, if I remember correctly, was the best year for Ryan in terms of his walks plus hits to innings pitched at just 1.03. And, of course, he did throw a no-hitter that year. That was when he threw number 6 out at Oakland and broke Sandy Koufax's mark that a lot of folks thought was unbreakable. Rest of the Texas rotation, Ferguson Jenkins from 74 will be in the 3 spot. In 74, he threw 333 innings. He had a 25-12 record. His whip is even better than Ryan, but where he is more vulnerable is that he doesn't get the strikeout totals and he does give up more hits. His batting average nearly 50 points higher than Ryan or Darvish in terms of what's allowed. 4 spot, Bert Blyleven. Yes, he was a Ranger at one point, and he was there in 77 when they made their first genuine run at a pennant. They gave Oakland a scare in 74, but they never really were in first place that late in the season. In 77, they were in the thick of things through the end of August, and they did not go away. They stayed on the Royals in the Royals' rearview mirror until the Royals just pulled away and no one could catch them in 77. Blyleven was on that team. He's in the 4 spot. Charlie Huff from the 85 Rangers is the 5th starter. Rangers have no mop-up pitcher in their bullpen either. They have 3 long relievers. Greg Harris was a Ranger in the 80s. His 1985 season is going to be what we have in this league, joined by the likes of Alexi Agondo from 2011 and Jim Kern from 1979. 3 setup pitchers, Jeff Russell, 1989, Jeff Zimmerman, 1999, and Craig McMurtry from 1988. The closer is Neftali Feliz from his rookie campaign in 2010. The Ranger lineup, Julio Franco will lead off at second base from 1991. Better on base than Ian Kinsler by actually quite a wide margin, and for that reason, I went with Franco. A lot of sluggers after that. Ivan Pudge Rodriguez, the catcher, batting second from 1999. Rafael Palmeiro, the DH, hits third, also from 99. The cleanup spot, Josh Hamilton from 2010, center field. The 5-hitter, Frank Howard from the Washington Senators of 1969, left field. And then in the 6th position for Texas, you have Mark Teixeira at first base. He was there in 2005. The bottom 3 for Texas, Juan Gonzalez from 1998, right field. Adrian Beltre, third base from 2012. He'll be in the 8th spot. Michael Young, 2006, will be the shortstop. Now Texas, because they don't have as many big priced guys in terms of the salary, was able to have some extremely deep bench players who can play a lot in terms of their total at bats. Scott Fletcher had over 500 at bats in 1986. He'll be a backup infielder and play all over the place. David Holtz, the same thing in the outfield from 1994. He's the speed guy, not a great on base, but really versatile guy that can run a lot. Gary Ward, another outfielder with a ton of at-bats from 1986, is on the club. And then the backup catcher for Texas is Gino Petralli. He was on the Rangers in the mid and late 80s. His 1987 campaign is on this Texas roster, and he will be the backup to Rodriguez. The Texas club will hit a ton of home runs, as I'm sure you could tell by the players and the seasons from which they were taken. They have one of the better pitching staffs in terms of the whip and the batting average against. They're offensively, they may be more challenged. They're going to hit a ton of home runs, but they're also not going to be as good at getting on base, and that could be a problem on them. They are one of the lowest on base percentages in the entire league. Only about 4 or 5 teams have lower numbers, including the Rays, who we're going to look at next. The Rays are going to be at a disadvantage simply because there just weren't enough players to pick from. They have the lowest on base, the lowest, they have the lowest batting average. They have the lowest slugging percentage. They will steal a ton of bases. They're a very good base running team, and so they will steal a ton of bases. They're going to need to. Their pitching is decent, but compared to the rest of the league, they're near the bottom in ERA in the high 280s, and they're second from the bottom in WHIP. So it will be interesting to see how that plays. Maybe with a more balanced league, they'll be more competitive, and who knows what'll happen. But the Tampa club is at a bit of a disadvantage. That was one of the reasons I actually went with this geographical alignment, because I think in this type of a division, they at least have a better shot at doing something. So let's take a look at the Tampa club, and that'll wrap up this audio track for the first of the 6 divisions. The Tampa rotation 1 through 5, James Shields from 2011 is the ace. He's followed by David Price of 2012, Jeremy Hellickson of 2011, Matt Garza of 2008, and Rolando Araujo, who was a Devil Ray their expansion year, 1998. Araujo will be in the number 5 position for Tampa Bay. No mop-up pitcher for the Rays. They have 3 long relief pitchers, 3 setup pitchers, and a closer. The 3 long relievers, 2 of them from the 2013 club, Alex Cobb and Chris Archer. And then they're also joined by Scott Kazmir from 2006. The 3 setup pitchers, Grant Balfour from 2008, Dan Wheeler from 2008, and Joaquin Benoit from 2010. Fernando Rodney, in that great year he had, 2012, as a closer, is an obvious choice to fulfill the role in that back end of the bullpen. On to the Tampa lineup. A pair of 2009 players lead off in the top 2 spots. Carl Crawford, center field, leading off, followed by Jason Bartlett, the shortstop, batting number 2. After that, a pair of 2007 players will be in the 3 and 4 positions, both contributors on the 08 World Series team. They just had better overall sabermetrics in 07, and that would be Carlos Pena at first base, batting 3rd. B.J. Upton, left field, will hit in the cleanup position. The 5-hitter is Fred McGriff. A lot of folks forget he was there for a couple of years. His 2000 campaign will give him a chance to contribute to this Rays club, batting 5th as the designated hitter. Rest of the Tampa lineup, Ben Zobrist, the very versatile player who can play all over the place. He'll be at second base to start the games anyway. He might get moved around at some point depending on the situation and the way the simulation engine processes things. But Zobrist batting 6th at second base from 2012. Evan Longoria from the 2009 Rays batting 7th at 3rd. The 8-hitter is Randy Wynn, one of the original Devil Rays, right field, batting 8th from 2002. And Diardo Navarro will bat 9th and catch from the 2008 ball club down in Tampa. Tampa, like the Rangers, a very deep and versatile bench. They have 2 infielders who are good hitters who can play all over the place. Aaron Ledesma was on the 98 expansion team. He can play all over the field. And then they have Jeff Keppinger, who can play all infield positions other than shortstop. Ledesma is a shortstop by trade. And Keppinger from 2012 joins 98 Ledesma from the Tampa club as backup infielders. Desmond Jennings will be the backup outfielder for the Tampa club. His 2011 rookie campaign, where he played part of the season in Tampa Bay, will be represented. And the backup catcher, who will get playing time due to an at-bats issue, is John Flaherty. He was on the 1999 Devil Rays, and he will back up Navarro. They're both decent throwing catchers. Navarro gets the starts because he does have a better on base from his 2008 performances, about 349 compared to just about 315 or so for Flaherty from 99. So in this division, as I've gone along, I think you can pretty much get a sense of which teams, in terms of the simulation process, I think are going to end up having the most success. I think the Braves and the Astros should make a very entertaining race. I think the Marlins and Rangers are going to be competitive. I think the Marlins are a better team offensively, and they can hang with the top teams in that department better than they can on the pitching side. And contrasting that, I think the Rangers actually are better to compete in terms of pitching. Offensively, they'll hit a ton of home runs, but I worry about their ability to get on base, although they are in a hitter's ballpark. And that's the other interesting aspect of this, because the ballpark factors do come into play here. The Marlins, I worry more about their pitching, but they're in a pitcher's park. The Rangers, I worry about their offense. They're in a hitter's park. So it'll be interesting to see how those factors cancel each other out. And then the Rays, pitcher's park, I'm not sure how that's going to work out. But no matter if it's simulations or real life baseball, that's why you play the game, because only then do you really know how things are going to go. So that's a look at the Sun Belt Division, also known as the National League East. And in the next clip, we will talk about the Northeast Corridor, all 6 teams that are in the National League Central.